morning and welcome to another live lesson for Paddington level main course. Well, today we're going to focus on narrative tenses, but beforehand, if you remember in previous videos that we were together, we talked about future tenses by details, and then we had another lesson specifically for present perfect to add to our complexity. But we didn't have this chance to talk about narrative tenses, and today in a bracket that I want to open among your units, we're going to talk about narrative tenses. What are narrative tenses? Well, the title shows that the tense or tenses that are used to narrate a story, to talk about a memory in the past, or to talk about an experience or something that has happened in my past, should be narrated by using narrative tenses. And we can say by easier word that narrative tenses focuses on all tenses in the past except present perfect. So we want to go through them by details today, and at the end there will be two exercises that you can focus on it, and it can help you to understand, let's say, better. So we have a vector like this that shows tenses. It starts from past, comes to present, and goes to future. And today we want to focus on this section of the vector. First one is simple past. What is simple past? Well, an action in the past started and finished. The definition is very simple. One action in the past started and finished. If my verb is regular, it gets ed. Play, played. And if it is irregular, regarding to the chart, I should memorize it and I should change the form of the verb. For example, eat changes to ate, write changes to wrote, and many other ones that you most probably are familiar with them. And if we focus on these sentences, you can easily and clearly find out that these sentences are talking about one action in the past. I played the piano last night. My verb is regular, it gets ed, and last night shows that it happened in the past. So the action of playing piano started and finished last night. She ate pizza yesterday. Again, this is a simple past sentence, but the only difference is the verb, because here my verb is irregular, and that's why we changed the form of it. If you want to make questions or make them negative, you can easily use did or didn't for all pronouns. Just don't forget that by having did or didn't in sentence, that ed from regular ones disappear, and even irregular one changes to the form of base form and appear in sentence. I don't want to, let's say, extend talking about simple past, because I'm pretty sure that you all know about it. Let's jump to another one, which is past continuous. Again, definition, one action in the past started and finished. But it was in a kind of a progress. It was continuous. And the structure is was or were based on the pronoun plus verb ing. Look at these sentences. I was driving in the street. The structure shows that it is a past continuous sentence. Or you were studying. But there is a point here. As you can see, at the end of these sentences, there is no full stop. If you want to speak like a professional, you should know that you, let's say, should complete your sentence by mixing past continuous with the simple past. Because in these two sentences, the listener, the audience, is still waiting for more information. I was driving in the street yesterday. So, what happened? Or you were studying. Okay, so I need more information. Therefore, I try to mix it with a simple past, and then I have a full, meaningful sentence. While I was driving in the street, I saw you. And I just remind you of while is a kind of a linker or connector for past continuous and simple past here. And the other one, you were studying when she called. Again, it is talking about two actions. So, to speak more meaningful, it is better to mix past continuous with simple past. Good. I'm pretty sure that simple past and past continuous is not that problematic for you. You can easily even teach them. They are, let's say, easy for you. But we want to talk about another, let's say, tense that we have in past. You remember this vector. We talked about simple past, past continuous, and now we want to talk about past perfect. Well, What is the definition of past perfect? As like a simple past and past continuous, one action in the past started and finished. Then why do we need past perfect when simple past can help us? There is a reason that we use past perfect in our sentences. Sometimes it happens that in our past we had more than one action, that they didn't necessarily happen at the same time. So when we want to talk about the gap, the time discrimination among them, for the further one we use past perfect, and for the closer one we use simple past. So the only usage of past perfect is talking about the time gap between two actions in the past. The structure is had plus past participle, or third form of the verb. I had started studying for master's before I moved to New York. As you can see, the action of studying started before moving to New York, and that's why we use here past perfect, and then for the closer action we use simple past. Another example. Tony knew Istanbul so well because he had visited the city several times. As you can see here, Tony has experienced visiting Istanbul before, so that was the first action, and that's why he already knew Istanbul by details. Now we want to talk about past perfect continuous, a kind of a tense that maybe is less common, and normally we don't use it that much. But again, if you want to speak like a professional by considering all details in tenses and grammar, we should be able to know that and of course to use it. What is past perfect continuous? The structure is had been verb ing, and as like as past continuous, it is talking about an action that happened in the past and it was in a progress, but before another action. As like as past perfect, that one action happened before a simple past action, here past perfect continuous is exactly the same, but it was in a progress, and that's why we use that structure. They had been talking for over an hour before Tony arrived. So the action of talking, which was in a progress, started earlier, and then Tony arrived. Therefore, for the first one we use past perfect continuous. For the, let's say, next one, we used simple past. Good. Learning these tenses, these narrative tenses in single sentences is not hard at all. Everybody can, let's say, focus on the structure, focus on these sentences, and can easily learn it. But when we have sentences, different sentences, in a paragraph or while speaking, being able to make a clear discrimination and a clear decision is a bit hard. And that's why for all pedagogical books, from starter to advanced, we always have tenses. No matter you're advanced student, elementary student, or even pre-intermediate students, you can find tenses in first 2 or 3 units of your books. Why? Again, because learning and talking about tenses in single sentences is not challenging at all. But when we have it in a text, that's a bit tough. Here I brought 2 different exercises for you. First one, we are going to fill in the blanks by using the correct form of the verb, and the tenses should be just simple past and past perfect. I repeat, it is just simple past and past perfect. Let's read it together. I can't believe I black that apartment. My application last week, but I didn't think I had a chance of actually getting it. When I up to take a look around, there were at least 20 other people who before me. Most of them out their applications and were already leaving. The landlord said I could still apply, so I did. Second part, I to fill out the form, but I couldn't answer half of the questions. Me to include references, but I didn't want to list my previous landlord because some problems with him in the past and I knew he wouldn't recommend me. Listing my father as a reference. So, as you can see, we've got a lot of blanks and verbs that we should fill in the blanks by using the correct form. Well, of course, the meaning can be helpful to make a clear decision. On the other hand, there are some words in different sentences, like prepositions that we have here, before, and even the word already, that can help you make a better decision. Now let's check together. I can't believe I got that apartment. I submitted my application last week. Okay, these two are simple past. We have last week here, and they almost happened at the same time. But I didn't think I had a chance of actually getting it. When I showed up to take a look around, there were at least 20 other people who had arrived before me. So one action happened earlier than, let's say, I arrived. Most of them had already filled out their applications and were already leaving. The landlord said I could still apply, so I did. I tried to fill out the form, but I couldn't answer half of the questions. They wanted me to include references, but I didn't want to list my previous landlord because I had some problems. I had some problems with him. So he didn't want to fill in the blanks, mention previous landlord as a reference because earlier than that he had some problems. First had is part of past perfect structure, and the other had is, let's say, past participle form of the verb have that we have here. Yeah, past, and I knew he wouldn't recommend me. I ended up listing my father as a reference. Was it complicated? Not that much. But in proficiency exam, there will be some questions somehow close to this, let's say, style. You will be given a text and you should fill in the blanks by using the correct form of the verb. So getting to know about the meaning and even focusing on details in a text is very crucial and necessary. Let's go to another exercise which is focused, which is focused on simple past and past continuous. Previous one, simple past and past perfect, and here, simple past and past continuous. Last night, while I was doing my homework, Angela, she said me on her cell phone from her biology classroom at UCLA. I asked her if for class, but she said that the professor was at the front of the hall lecturing while to me. I couldn't believe a phone call during the lecture. I asked what was going on. She said her biology professor was so boring that several of the students in class, some of the students about their plans for the weekend, and the student next to her, a picture of a horse. When Angela, she was not satisfied with the class. That my biology professor was quiet, good, and that she switched to my class. Well, regardless the topic, the story about the class, we focus on the grammar. Okay, I remind you that it's going to be filled by just simple past and past continuous. Last night, while I was doing, again after while we use the continuous form, my homework, Angela called. She said she was calling me on her cell phone. Calling is a progressive. From her biology classroom at UCLA. I asked her if she was waiting for class. But she said that the professor was at the front of the hall lecturing while she was talking to me. I couldn't believe she was making a phone call during the lecture. I asked what was going on. She said her biology professor was so boring that several of the students were actually sleeping in class. Some of the students were talking. See, sleeping, talking, they all are progressive. Here again, waiting and talking. That's why we use the ing form. About their plans for the weekend, and the student next to her was drawing a picture of a horse. When Angela told me she was not satisfied with the class, I mentioned that my biology professor was quiet, good, and suggested that she switched to my class. So these were two exercises that we had in a text, well, let's say more challenging than just single and simple sentences. And I again kindly remind you that in your proficiency exam there will be, let's say, a lot of exercise like that you will have a text, you will be given a text, then you should fill in the blanks by using the correct form of the verb. How? I repeat, by meaning and single specific words like before, after, in a text that can help you find it out. That's today's lesson. Thank you for watching and listening, and I hope it was useful for you. Have a good day.